Okay, so here we are in Soldier Kings. I've done the starting setup. A couple of maybe rules points I didn't bring up, or at least one. In order to collect income from an area that's in an overseas map, you have to have a fleet somewhere in that area, and it's more than that actually. You have to control the area. There can't be any enemy armies in it, unless there's friendly armies there too. Can't be blockaded. There has to be a friendly or allied fleet in an adjacent sea area, or a coastal area adjoining the same sea area. That makes this very, very hard. For the French, for example, I looked, and they're lacking enough fleets to cover all their territories. They ended up leaving Senegal so that they're not going to get income from them. I think for the Dutch it means all their fleets are overseas. You have one here and one here. It just puts you in this rough position, at least with the starting forces. Okay, so anyway, I did the setup. The Russians put their first force first, so I'll start with them. But these kind of developed as we were going. There wasn't any diplomacy, and I made one error. I didn't hand out the event cards before placement. It took me a while to find out for sure that the event cards even belong in the game on the first year. They do. They're in the prepare for play section as opposed to the scenario section, which is fine, but everything else in the scenario is kind of covered in the scenario section. It took some digging even in the prepare for play to find it for me. Okay. There's a lot of words there, and the one piece that I wanted to find isn't, you know, in its own little case or anything. So that makes it harder to find things. Something I've harped upon in a lot of things. You put things in paragraph textual form, it's hard to find that key little what? Sentence here involving that. And it's certainly harder to remember for me as well. Although it's easier to read. Okay. Just not retain or anything else useful. So the Russians ended up setting up close to the Turkish border with most of their forces. Few reasons for that. One is the Crimeans, which they could conceivably attack. Now, Crimea has a lot of troops, though, and is stronger than Russia at this point. So I don't really want to launch a war there. Mainly, though, I'm worried that the Turks don't have anything better to do. In reaction, of course, the Turks built their army up near the Russian border. And it looks like Russia and Turkey are heading for war because just the nature of the setup situation. Had things been different, Turkey might have favored moving towards Austria, but here's the problem. They do that. If Russia's not in the war, Russia may interfere with them. There wasn't any diplomacy, although there could have been. Let's look at the Austrians. They, unfortunately, they have the Saxon allies, and there's no way to mark this. That's one of my disagreements with the component set. But they, unfortunately, kind of set up in Saxony and Bohemia, and I think that's leaving them as vulnerable to the Prussians as they historically were. Prussia set up some strong forces to go try to take the Saxons out. These 4-3s should be very, very good at killing things without taking damage. I've read that. And some lighter forces facing the Bohemians, they may be able to do a lot of damage to Austria. Where do we go from here? Let me hop over to the Dutch. Yeah, I know I started out kind of nicely. See, the Dutch are kind of on their own and didn't have anybody to disagree too much with them. They've got a land force here, but another one in Ceylon, although that may not be the best place for it, to see if they can get involved in India. They're pretty much safe in the South China Sea. We see Spain doesn't have a fleet there. They're not going to be able to bring money home from the Philippines either. They also were short on fleets. Spain is tied up. So the English-French war, like the Austro-Prussian one, looks predestined. And let's look at where the French set up. They set up a bit up here in Canada with the intention of trying to interfere with the English. The English have their provincial forces here, and they have some navies, but they're actually outnumbered here. On the other hand, down here in the Caribbean, they have stronger naval force. And in India, they have a stronger force overall, so they probably can take the offensive in India. England's not a major continental power, of course, but they did put forces, their best force, in Hanover. Not quite sure what its intention is, because it could intervene in the Prussian War very easily, but what can it do beyond that? I'm not sure. The French have another worry, which is Spain. Spain seems to have set up in a very anti-French position. They've got forces down here in the south, and I had a French unit that was planning on going into the Austrian Netherlands, but may have to deal with the Spaniards instead. Got Spaniards near Louisiana. Now these guys may not be able to take Louisiana, but they have the slight advantage on it because it's not really fortified. That's about it for Spain, really. Now, here's the problem. Spain can't create a formal ally with England. So, as natural as it might seem to go to war with France, that may cause problems in this game. And, likewise, nobody seems terribly interested in the Austro-Prussian War at this point in the game. And again, I think this is just an artifact of the game design. Leaving things as open as they are, hey, let's see what happens with those countries. Let's see how their victory points wind up. Now I'm going to slip to the initiative phase, and then we'll see what happens as we start playing. This is a hard one to get started for me. Mainly all those event cards and having to know them. I have a feeling I'm going to miss opportunities to use them a lot. Well, we'll see. So the first thing that seems to happen in a normal campaign turn is the purchase phase. You can buy forces up. In spring turns also check the minor country and bring on any minor country units listed if available. It looks like we only have one minor in play, which is Saxony, and they get an extra army. And sorry about the fast pan. I think all the Saxons are on the board. Yeah, so they don't get any additional troops. Alright, so now we move. The initiative phase, now I rolled these already and took care of them. Prussia wanted a quick jump, and they got the highest roll, a total of 12. And they want to be able to do what they want to do quickly and hammer part of that Austrian force. It should have never been split up the way it was. On the other hand, almost everyone else went as far back as they could. A wait-and-see prospect. Now, with the purchases, you can see I built a lot of forces. But nobody's money is real low. Well, Russia's is. They built a huge army. They need it for defense as far as they're concerned. They don't think they can do anything. They need to prevent a Turkish incursion. Most everyone else has enough money to do some campaigning, though, other than the Russians. And so we may see some action there. Anyway, after the initiative phase, we go to the action phase. And let's start off and see what a Prussian turn looks like. Sort of from start to finish. They have no navy, so I'm not going to worry about that. Now let's look at their land action. Well, now, people want to play some cards. The French are going to open up with, they boiled and ate him up. Indian raids on British frontier settlements produced reports of cannibalism. The British player loses 1 to 3 resources. Now, I do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is a 3. The English lose 3 money. And no big deal, but it seems worth taking care of. The Austrians were considering a new leader. They're afraid they might lose him, but they're going to play him. And we'll play him with the Saxons. That's Natacy. Gives me a few extra dice. Help defend myself. The Prussians, on the other hand, also had a card they wanted to play. Swiss mercenaries. If they have cash. They don't really have enough cash to do this and fight. They're going to hold on to these. See what they can do. Maybe they can find an ally and play it for them. See if somebody comes in against Austria. Alright, well, how about movement and combat? Strikes me that this force is much less valuable, but I was counting on doing this way. Sending Frederick here. I can't move him all the way up. So I'm going to move this force in and this up to Silesia. Yeah, let's see, he can't move 2 spaces because he's only an army. Okay, let's look at what the combat's going to be like. Well, first of all, it's not going to happen unless the Prussians pay. And in order to fight, it costs 1, 2, or 4. I think I can wipe Natacy out in 2 rounds, so I'm going to pay $2 for that. And we'll see how that works. I've got 8, 9, 10, 11 dice, and they've got 5, 6, 7. 4, 5, 6. I'm going to pause this because I can't roll without stopping. So the white dice are Prussian and the red dice are Austrian. And let's see what we got for hits. The Austrians seem to have failed. They've got nothing whatsoever. There was no terrain to benefit them. The Prussians, on the other hand, got fairly lucky. They did 4 hits. That's 2, 3, 4. And the Austrians have to withdraw. And from Saxony they can withdraw back to here. Oh, I don't know if they can. Let me look at the order of withdrawal. I'm not sure if there's some into enemy control land areas via mountain. Actually, probably didn't even want to fight that. I'll tell you. Yeah. Oh well. So I can withdraw into Hesse. I'm not putting it under siege. I just got there. And I probably should not have allowed that fight to happen. I'll let Schwerin attack too if he wants to. He's got 9 dice. I've got 6, 7, 8, 9. I outnumber him. So if he wanted to attack, he could. I don't think he wants to spend to reduce his army there. So now we go to the siege combat, and I get 1 for free. How many dice do I get? Well, a lot. Right? I think I still get all those dice. Yeah. So I'm going to just take my 1 for free. 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. And this many I can roll, I guess. And I got 1 hit. Which means, since Saxony has a 3-point defense, I didn't get it. That's the Prussian turn. Now we go on. And Russia will get a turn. And I'm going to load this up, and I'll come back with key points elsewhere.